Testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We're testing now.
Testing from Dylan's side. I don't know if this is going to come out normally.
Welcome to That Japanese Thing. Today we're talking about Lone Wolf and Cub, the first movie, Sword of Vengeance. Welcome everyone, my name's Chris. Today with me is Yesh and Dylan. How you guys doing?
Hi.
Hello.
Doing okay, and you?
I am inexplicably sick again, but
No.
I'm starting to feel better. Wasn't so great yesterday, but yeah, my nose is cleared up and all that sort of stuff, so yeah, pretty
There's
good.
a lot of stuff going around at the...
I mean, like, a month ago I had COVID. I don't think it's possible I could get it, like, again in the same sort of time period. So this is just like a weird
Influenza
cold.
B.
Influenza B, probably. Didn't get my influenza shot this year, and I should have. Anyway. So what's been going on, guys? Haven't actually caught up yet.
I tried to watch the English dub of Oshinoko and stopped watching anime for a solid 2 weeks.
Every time I encounter an English dub, yeah, I get those sort of feelings. Especially if it tries to do, like, cute voices. That's the thing that pisses me off the most.
And Oshinoko has like put on cute voices, so they try to go a bit extreme in the dub. It was painful.
To be perfectly honest, I don't think I've really watched an English dub since maybe like 2005 or something like that.
I watched English Gurren Lagann, which was fine. In fact, it was almost
Okay.
good, I would say.
I think, well, Helsing's also okay, I guess. But the last thing I remember being really angry about and stopping watching English dubs was Love Hina, where they gave each of the girls like a distinct variation of an American accent.
High-pitched.
Like the one girl was like had a really strong Texan accent, and then they had like also the one girl was from India, so she had like a weird kind of stereotypical Indian accent. I don't know, it was just real bad.
Sounds
Maybe offensive, I guess, in some way, but yeah, I guess it's fine if you like that sort of stuff. Dylan, you brought us a movie called Lone Wolf and Cub, which I've heard of before, but I've never
You have?
seen.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's good to contrast the other films that we've seen with something that's slightly later, I suppose. Yeah, Lone Wolf and Cub originally was a manga
Does
written
it?
by Kazuo Koike and first published in 1970.
And so it's around the same time period we got into with the Zatoichi thing, right?
Yeah, I think Zatoichi started slightly earlier, like late 60s,
Yeah, still black and white.
but not by much. A couple of years, right?
Yeah. So, Weekly Manga Action, which is not really a publication I'm aware of, is what published the original manga. Did it have an anime adaptation at all?
Not that I'm
Much.
aware of. Not a Japanese manga adaptation. There was a
Sorry, an anime adaptation.
re-adapted Western comic
Right.
called Lone Wolf 20.
Because, yeah, see, Dark Horse took it up, right?
Yes, yeah. They for I think Western distribution.
Okay. Oh yeah, but they just published it as a... Do you remember the Dark Horse manga books you used to see in bookstores?
Bookstores, yes.
Yeah,
I used to enjoy those.
They were a weird size. Like you got
Made of-
the
made of the
Western
Immortal.
publication ones like Tokyo Pop, which are like
Yeah.
a normal kind of size for a manga, that normal A5 kind of pulp novel size. But the Dark Horse ones were just big, like a comic book, like like a Batman or
Yeah.
a Superman comic, and just really thick.
So Blade of the Immortal looked like this. The Lone Wolf and Cubs that I purchased looked like the small A5 booklets that you're describing.
Right.
Those are the ones with the Frank Miller artwork on the cover.
Okay, okay. I got a picture of them up on the screen for people who want to see. Yeah, these look more like the normal kind of mangas. Just really thick, right?
Yep.
But you can see them alongside all the American stuff.
Think they read right to left like it does, but I might be wrong.
I think, yeah, Dark Horse reversed it. I can't remember. Things have gotten like weeby enough that everything goes the right way, or the way it was supposed to be published nowadays.
The right-hand way.
Yeah. Indeed. But yeah, like so, there are no anime adaptation, unfortunately. Although there are various animes that are kind of based on this sort of premise, right? And yeah, let's get to what is this thing, Dylan? This.
So, I mean, at its core, if we're talking about the concept of Lone Wolf and Cub, it is a action samurai adventure, really. Lots of blood, lots of gore, severed limb, weird weapons that do weird things. And that is the way that it is in the manga. If we're talking about the movie specifically, and we were chatting a little bit beforehand, I think Yesh brought the term exploitation film to the table, and I think that describes it very, very well. It has definitely got the vibe of exploitation film. There are a lot of breasts, female breasts,
right,
that hit the screen throughout the movie. A lot of lurid content. Their props department, I have to say, for the era, did pretty good, because the severed limbs and torsos and heads that fall off are very cool.
I thought like the sword chopping through things looked particularly convincing in some scenes as well.
Yes.
In most of the samurai stuff we watched, it's just like, you know, there's a slight glance of the plastic sword on the back of a samurai, and that person just dies with no blood or anything.
Yeah.
But you get to see him cut through like some wooden beams and bamboo and, you know, people's heads and things.
And in the choreography, he definitely looks like he's putting his weight behind it to actually just sever through the whole structure,
and yeah,
rather than like artfully cut.
Him being a beefy guy, it kind of you get that feeling of a weight behind the stroke as well, I suppose.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so so it's a Ronin film, I guess.
Yeah, it's a tale of revenge. So yes, I would agree. You know, he's dishonored. He is no longer a samurai after, I think, the tree scenes, which may have been sort of interposed. And then
but before going on, we found out, so there is a re-edited exploitation film of it, right?
Mm-hmm. So in the West, they released the first 2 movies edited together with a hashed-up storyline called Shogun Assassin.
So where this guy goes on a quest to kill the shogun of Japan.
So they changed the storyline very significantly. Where the original Lone Wolf and Cub is a story of intrigue and interclan politics, Shogun Assassin is a much more basic. The shogun is convinced that this guy will betray him someday, orders his death, and then this guy goes on a epic side quest to travel through Japan, laying with a bunch of women and then killing the shogun.
It's weird that they could have done that with just the first 2 movies, because it doesn't seem like there'd be enough stuff in that to
Certainly
do that.
not. And also, the manga is very extensive, so there's a lot of story, and apparently this just cuts all of it out.
Maybe they got some other footage from... Because sometimes you get these exploitation films, that even like recent ones, where there's a failed movie project, and they'll just have all this raw footage, and then they'll, you know, film like 5 or 6 scenes just around it to make everything fit together.
They are Power Rangers, this shit.
Oh yeah, Power Rangers is a good example of that. God, there's a bunch of other stuff. If you wanna get into that sort of trash, Red Letter Media does excellent work in that regard. You can see what's out there. But yeah, I thought it was a very slow kind of paced film in some parts, and then in other parts there was just kind of continuous action. So the story before we get into spoilers is this man is a executioner. He's the guy that cuts off the shogun's prisoners' heads. Is that correct?
Yeah, you call him a kaishukunin or a second, and it's typically like
Yeah.
normally when it comes to seppuku, if the person's disgraced, he hasn't got station, he has to suffer.
Indeed.
If there's no one that's going to end the suffering for them. But if they're like quite high up, aristocracy, then you would be afforded the
Oh
ability to either have
yeah.
a second or a second appointed for you, and they'd wait until you cut your belly, and then they would take your head off.
As a
That's
sort
the
of
idea.
last kind of mercy or something, I suppose.
Yeah, how close that is to what historically occurred, I can't tell you, but that's what the
But yeah,
current
I was just trying
understanding
to get at, is he just an executioner in Japan, or is he like the shogun's actual executioner?
He's the shogun's appointed.
Specifically, he is the shogun's appointed one.
Yeah,
because he wears those shogun's insignia on his
right.
kimono.
Yes,
as
it's
well.
like the big thing is he gets to wear. He's the only one who's not of the Tokugawa clan that can wear the shogun's family crest, because he's the ultimate symbol of that authority. Fuck with the shogun, that's it, you die.
Yeah. And he's a serious man, and he takes his job seriously, and he does serious things.
Mm.
And we see as the movie opens, there's a clan that's been defeated or has rebelled or something, and the head of the clan must die. But that person is a 6-year-old boy, it appears to be.
Something like a 6-year-old child.
Or even, maybe even younger.
Like and he very clearly doesn't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
It is a very disturbing scene in many regards.
So yeah, it starts off from a kind of dark place and doesn't depart much from there. But it's not difficult to watch in like a depressing kind of sense, I would say.
Yeah.
It's definitely like there's enough action and the story sort of goes somewhere, I guess, at least physically. there's travel.
Yeah, it's got that like very Japanesey structure of going forwards and backwards in time continuously.
And then there's just some weirdness that pops up every now and then that captivates you for a moment. I'm thinking specifically of the guy with the weird hair who's pretending to be old.
Retsudo.
Oh, right.
the main antagonist who's like
Yagyu Retsudo, yeah.
Yeah, the head of the shadow element of the Yagyu clan.
Yeah.
He's not the official head, but he's the head of the shadow.
He's great. He looks like Raiden without his hat. That's my kind of impression of him.
Yes.
The actor was chewing up the scenery in every scene as well.
Oh, yeah.
He talked in a very, we're gonna do this kind of voice.
More like theater acting rather than movie acting.
Cinematic.
Yeah.
Which is weirdly counterposed by the fact that a lot of the shots in this are extremely artistic from a cinematic perspective.
That's true,
The guy who handled shots in this was extremely certain about how he wanted the camera and lighting to be.
And there
because lots of shots have like a pure white background or a pure black background.
No, you're right.
And there were even like special effects, kind of, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well done special effects, honestly.
Or for the time period, anyway. You got the kind of 3-color thing where he was walking down a pure white path. With 2 things on either side of him. Obviously symbolic.
The ocean and the fire.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, much of the movie seems unconnected to other parts of the movie, but that's because it's based on a manga.
Correct.
And every chapter of a manga has its own little self-contained little story. I don't know the story structure of a manga. I don't know if you know if there's something particular about that, Yash.
The main thing about a manga storyline is that it tends towards being lots of little stories connected by a main story. But that's pretty standard for any serialized novel, I think, as well.
That is the case with this manga as well. It has a definite arc, but there are like sort of the daily adventures of Assassin Kun as he walks down his road. But it does reach the climax. He kills several of Retsudo's clansmen as he gets there. Eventually the guy's like the only member of his family left.
It's true, yeah. And there's some very obvious kind of tropey things going on, especially with like the ninjas invading the space early on.
But
anyway, before we get into spoilers, let's just give it a bit of a rating. I would say 6 out of 6.5, somewhere between 6 and 7 out of 10. Very easy to watch. Not necessarily something I would seek out watching or feel like strongly about finishing the rest of the series.
Yep.
But yeah, I could imagine the manga being a much more digestible way to consume the story. Especially since I imagine you could do it much more quickly than sitting through the rather long, drawn-out scenes. Dill?
So I don't like giving ratings, but I think that yours is pretty spot on. If there were to be one, the reason why I brought this to people's attention is one, I feel like it serves as good comparison because the samurai movie genre is incredibly wide and it can tell a whole bunch of different styles of stories, and this is very different than what we've watched previously.
Sure.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to someone unless they liked gratuitous violence and like if they were a Tarantino fan, right?
Yes.
Then I might say, listen, watch this movie because it probably was some of at least one of the movies that informed Kill Bill.
Oh, for sure.
You know, like severed limbs flying across, these like blood vendettas between clans.
The way he stands with his katana is very much like whoever the main person
like the tricks in the duels that are used to gain the upper hand. They're very
the dirtiness of all the fights.
Yeah, you can see that Tarantino took cues from films, at least that are like, if not, directly from this one. So
yes.
Sorry, for me,
just cut you off.
No.
I think I literally was going to give this a 6.5. So I think we're all three of us for once are
in equilibrium and agreement.
Absolute equilibrium here. It was certainly not a waste of time. It was certainly made sense and an interesting story. But I also don't think I would go digging around for more of this in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I would call it enjoyable, but like something, if it was on, I would watch it, but I wouldn't go looking for it.
He must have had,
I would definitely recommend the manga more than
do you think
the movie.
Normally when we get together and watch one of these things, we're a bit scattered and we get together and it's a bit of a weird time. But like we sat down and we like made a barbecue and we had stuff and chatted for a while. Do you think like we all got our stuff together before we watched it to the point where we were just like, we'll just go with whatever. Everyone's going to agree on things.
I'm not sure because I came to my conclusion. Like I've had my conclusion. I've watched the film years and years ago.
True. Yeah.
And
I'm pretty solid about making sure that the people around me don't affect my ratings too much with regards to content.
Yeah, Yesh just doesn't value us.
I have had wildly different opinions on two movies while we all watched them together previously.
True.
Yeah.
So I believe personally that if we're all on the same boat on this one, it's not because we watched it together, because we've watched stuff together before.
Yes.
And when we watched stuff at my house, we had eaten before we watched the movie as well, spent
true.
a fair bit of time chatting.
Yeah.
So for the purposes of zeroing our meters together, I personally believe that this movie just struck us all as a 6.5 rather than we influenced each other to a 6.5.
Here's a quick question for both of you.
Sure.
Would you prefer to watch Satoichi over this, vice versa? And would that mean that you would give it a higher or lower rating?
Oh, no, I'd rather watch this again.
I'd rather watch Satoichi again.
This is shorter.
Interesting.
It was shorter.
Yeah.
But I think Satoichi had a lot more of those character development moments that I'm looking for in a movie.
Would you rate Satoichi higher?
Oh yeah,
I gave it a 7.
I would.
Okay. But Chris, you'd rather watch this again,
because
even
it's
though
shorter.
you'd rate the... Yeah, because it's shorter. Okay. There's like an interesting band that it falls in.
There's more uncomfortable stuff in this movie than there is in Satoichi. though.
Yes.
Oh god, the scene in the
We're
hut
in,
with
we're
the
in
lady.
spoilers now. Here we go, spoilers. Spoilers, 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 spoilers.
I was trying to keep. I was trying to keep it vague. The scene
That's
in the hut
great.
with the lady, though, was like, oh god, what are we doing? Why is this so 70s?
We're busy exploiting
There's
brown
weird
chicken, brown
nudity,
cow.
weird sex scenes in this movie.
And they can't leave it alone at weird sex scene. Then they have to go and explore how big his wang is afterwards.
Okay, the breast thing. The director clearly has a thing for like nipples, right?
Yeah,
It's-
so there were like 6 or 7 different breasts exposed in this movie.
And
And
in
it's such
the
a short
weirdest
movie.
places. But he also always does it at a time when the audience can't enjoy it, if you know what I mean, because it's happening at an
Yeah,
awkward point.
I was gonna say, when we were watching it, I brought up that almost none of it was sexualized.
Yeah, one of them is basically kind of like a forced rape scene, I guess.
Kind of.
The other
yeah.
one's like a breastfeeding scene.
Surprisingly common in Japanese films of like the 50s, 60s, and 70s eras. For some reason, they weren't too scum about showing rape film.
To be fair, they're still not.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of like weird subculture stuff that we just don't get over here.
I mean,
If
we're
you
talking
go off
Western markets, though.
the main street in like to the video stores that you're not supposed to go to, you'll
You're
find a
talking
bunch of
about
that
in
sort of stuff.
Shinjuku.
In Shinjuku,
There's one
well, in
particular
Shinjuku you'll
building.
find the more normal
There's one
stuff,
particular
right?
high-rise building, and you can go up or down in it, and
Yeah.
that will just that will determine your experience or your level of trauma when leaving.
I mean, if you go off Otome Road, there's a bunch of BL kind of weird stuff you'll encounter as well. And if you go off, if you go off the main street in Akiba, then you're gonna find maid-related kind of stuff. So it's just, it's just part of Japanese culture, and the Japanese people ignore it, and so should we. But yeah, it's not really what most of it is, I guess. Most
a lot of it is the father-son journey and the samurai thing, the extreme honor
It's-
dueling murder thing.
It's weird that they do the it seems like almost an afterthought given the structure of the movie, but I'm sure the manga's different because the father really doesn't seem to like his son very much.
No, that's very much in the manga. At least in the first
He
20 chapters.
he loves his son, but he's a very harsh and hard person.
Well, he's prepared
So
to
he's-
kill his son,
like-
right? In the
Sorry?
first
He's prepared for his son to choose death.
choose
Yeah.
death, yeah. So
But I mean, that is very much from the position of listen, I'm going to do this, and you'll probably be happier if you're dead, rather than, embarking on this torturous.
but surely there's like a middle ground of killing your son and maybe handing him off to a peasant family or something, throwing them some money.
Well, no.
You'd have
I
to be able to pay the peasant family and trust them.
I mean, he
which
was
is
a rich
possible.
man, right?
Yeah.
Surely.
But then you wouldn't have a manga series known as Lone
Wolf
Wolf
and
and
Cub.
Cub.
Yeah, just Lone
You
Wolf.
kind of need it for the narrative writing of it.
Lone
I
Wolf
thought-
sells cub.
I thought that scene was very much that he was unwilling to give up his son as his only family remaining.
Yeah.
And also not willing to take his son's honor without his son choosing it, if that makes any kind of sense.
Even though the son can't talk or
Can't really
think
you
yet.
can't say that he's actually there.
yeah.
But yeah, he couldn't take his son's honor without action from his son, but he also can't let go of his son. I think the
Yeah.
last words his wife told him was to not let go of their child.
The
Yeah.
mangaka, I mean, if you read up sort of surrounding the manga, the mangaka had intended Daigoro to be like a weakness for Okami, for Ogami. So he was supposed to be like his Achilles heel, essentially. But that's not how it's written in the manga either, or in the movie, where he almost gambles with Daigoro's life regularly. He doesn't actually. They'll put Daigoro in jeopardy, and Ogami will be like, "Okay, so what?" And then do what he was gonna do, and it's up to the person, who actually doesn't end up exploiting.
Yeah. Ogami Ido, right? Ito.
Yeah.
So I think the Ito part is the interesting part of the name. Like the Ogami, I think, kind of evokes like an Okami kind of thing, as you said. Like he could be a wolf, but Ito is like one hit. So he's like, I guess he's known for like being the executioner, like the one stroke to kill kind of thing.
Or like the number one sword.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be like the top swordsman in Japan. So yeah, both work very well. I don't know if there was actually an Ito clan. I know there was a Yagyu clan.
Well, Ito would be his first name, right?
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, apologies. I don't know if there was an Ogami specifically. I know there was a Yagyu clan.
I don't know. The kanji for it isn't like a normal kanji, so.
But you said that the sword school that he practiced was a sword school.
Yeah, something like that.
Did I? I'm not sure.
He doesn't use Ito's sword school.
No. The Zanbatsu stuff is not, to my knowledge, a real school. There must have been some. I think I was commenting on something else. We were talking about like the kamae, the stances they were using, and the stances are from real ryuha, from real schools. So whether it's like Hasso, Tenchi, those Tenchi.
I just backed on the first name thing. So Ogami is just a made up kind of pronunciation of this word. The original kanji is to worship, or be worshipful, I guess.
Okay.
So this would be like a holy kind of thing, which is interesting because like the whole thing's about a shrine being defiled in his name, which is why he goes into a life of crime, so to speak, in order to seek revenge. He's not really seeking revenge on the shogun, right? He still feels loyal to the shogun.
Yeah. I mean, the shogun, in the movie at least, the shogun isn't complicit in.
No.
In the series, the shogun knows what the Yagyu have done. He just is letting everyone do what they want to do.
Right.
But, Ogami doesn't hold that against the shogun. The Yagyu are the sole fixation of them. But you do get like the Shogun's ninja clan,
you were saying, Dill, these are supposed to be two clans that may have existed in some form or the other.
That's in the manga book. So the Ogami clan, I don't know if they did exist. I know the Yagyu did, and the Yagyu existed sort of, and then fell off the map. Now there is still a Yagyu sword school, which I think is what I had mentioned before. There is a legitimate Yagyu school because the Yagyu were quite high ranking clan, and then they just fell into sort of disrepair is the wrong word. I don't know if they would like officially dissolve, but they declined very rapidly seemingly without explanation. And so what the mangaka wanted to do was kind of tell a alternative history, fictionalized sort of hypothetical account of what could have happened. The Yagyu betray the Ogami clan, and the last surviving member slowly dismantles the Yagyu clan bit by bit by bit.
Yeah, I mean that's a good solid thing to base a story on, to be honest.
Yeah.
In terms of the rest of the story, though, what happens is there's a confrontation in the town that he lives in with the Yagyu. They have a battle like on not a bridge, but like a water wall kind of thing. What do you call that sort of thing? Like in a river that's kind of diverting the flow of the water a bit. Weird?
I don't know what you would call it.
You see them next to dams, right? Where the dam wall has like a little sluice gate next to it, a sluice way, and these walls divert some water to always flow in that direction. But they have like a little kind of fight over that, and he slices up all the people. And Mr. Impressive Eyebrows kind of looks like he's going to cast a curse on him. Yeah. But he's just a normal person. He looks like he's a weird supernatural creature. and acts like one.
Yeah.
But then we kind of go back and forth in time, and we see him working as an assassin throughout the country to get money in order to somehow get his revenge later on, I guess.
Yeah, that is a very good way of describing it. Somehow. We're still, having read the manga and having watched the entire movie series, I'm still not quite sure how the money helped, but we know that it did.
Yeah. I guess you need money if you want to kill people with a katana.
I
I mean, it really seemed like he had a good opportunity just to slice up everyone he wanted to slice up right at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, it did. Yet again, you would only then have one manga book instead of a series.
Right, exactly. I think the editor was like, yeah, just make him run now. Make him run for no reason now, and we'll come back to this in 15 issues.
If I'm not mistaken, there is like a... he does square off against Retsudo fairly early on, and Retsudo loses an eye.
Oh, okay.
But
oh god, that would make the acting even better.
Yeah, then he uses a tsuba as an eye patch. I think I might be wrong, but yeah. So that's to my recollection. It's been many years, so please, if someone's listening and they know better, correct me.
This is being written at the time where Japan has ceased to become a serious country, right? And has descended into the state we now find it into, which is not to insult Japanese people. We will love them for it, but this is the era very shortly where Toriyama is going to start becoming popular, and absurdist kind of manga is coming to the fore.
Yeah.
And so things start to get like this. They still have an edge of pretense to seriousness about them, but we're well into the silly. Yeah.
Yeah, take a step back, and then you're like, oh, that's not serious. This is silly.
But it's contrasted with the uncomfortable, weird sex scenes, right, which are done seriously.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, like, there's this the person who is like kind of forced to have sex with him is like a comic relief character thereafter.
A little, yeah.
There to talk him up in a way as well.
Oh, she's there to contrast the cowardly samurai men with her braveness, right?
She's there to mention how good his dick was.
That's true.
But
as I say,
sorry that
nothing
this is on YouTube, but that's what she does.
It's okay. We're never falling into a child category anyway.
Thank goodness. Oh, gosh.
But I mean, yeah, she's there to make fun of cowardly men and make him look better by contrast, right?
Yeah. Which is that happens in the manga as well. Like it is very much for the character's benefit. He is so manly,
and he's also so manly that after her falling in love with him, he threatens to kill her on a bridge in order to get her to run away.
She doesn't chase after him.
Yeah. So I suppose you can see that as he's walking a dangerous road. He doesn't need anyone following him. That sort of thing. He just needs to take his baby with him. Seems like that was a perfect opportunity to maybe get the child away.
And he could have given her like half the amount of money that he received for that job. All those little packs.
Yep.
Were in the shape of Ryu, of like gold coins.
Come back every few months to make sure the kid's okay.
So we always joke about like Sanjuro coining the most for each job.
Yes.
Sanjuro's is like 1/10 of what Ogami earns per hit.
Right.
Right, like the money that they're putting down on the table is insane. And so you could have taken like just half of that, given it to her, and be like, "Here, take this child and bugger off."
Yeah,
and she would have lived as a wealthy woman.
What was it saying?
Sorry, I distracted.
No, it wasn't.
You were saying that it would have been the perfect moment to hand off the child when he was threatening to chop the bridge.
Yes.
The lady was trying to cross to get to him.
Before that, or just make some sort of arrangement. But there's no logic applied to it, I suppose. So that they're just going for what they can go for.
So many plot holes. So many.
But yeah, I give it a watch if you're interested in this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's definitely part of the conversation with samurai movies.
I think if you liked Kill Bill and you don't mind some 70s cheesiness, then this is definitely a film you're going to enjoy. Or if you want like real bloody samurai action and you don't mind lots of luridness, this is also good for you. Other than that, I wouldn't necessarily recommend.
No, but it's getting into the sort of more interesting kind of 80s films, which I'm sure we're going to be watching relatively soon. And yeah, it's a stepping stone in that gore kind of vampire hotel kind of Tokyo thing that we get later on.
I also found it a bit interesting that this was kind of a dip into like technology in a way. He starts using gadgetry and like hidden tools a lot in this movie.
Yes, yeah.
The cart that he pushes the boy on is just literally a weapons shop.
Yes, very much a part of the manga thing as well. Like, I think lots of influences from James Bond.
It feels like it.
You know, he takes out like a stick and then he twists it and then like a spike pops out the end. Which I often joke in training when we're like training with a Humbo. I'm like, now, like there are moments where you do wish that you just had a button and it could just like shoot a spike out. It would be very handy.
No, I mean, I'm sure if we
Doesn't
watch
quite
all the
work that way,
movies,
though.
it might get to that point. But it has that M kind of making gadgets feel about it, except he's by himself doing it, I assume. Maybe in the manga there's someone else that's helping him.
Yeah, they don't really cover it. I'm sure there's a smith that is actually doing it for him, but they don't actually. Well, I can't remember them
I
covering.
guess that's why he needs all the money, is the gadgets.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what maybe he used a lot of the money on, is like just at one stage filling this baby cart in with rows and rows and rows and rows of matchlock rifles
Yes.
that are like rigged together so that when he pushes a button they all shoot. So he just pushes the trolley cart towards an army at one stage and then annihilates them. Very unrealistic, but very entertaining.
Just it's a rolling bomb essentially.
Yeah.
Safe thing to push your child in. Just mounds of gunpowder.
No one would ever expect the baby cart of holding such serious hardware.
I guess not. Although he does look like the most suspicious human being.
Yes. No. No one would trust him.
Okay, so I'm going to say lots of weird moments in this movie. It's definitely in that category of weird Japanese stuff. And if you want to watch it with your friends for that reason, probably a good, beer and chips kind of movie.
Certainly.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for talking.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll be back soon with some more probably anime-related stuff. It's been a bit of a weird month. And some stuff's going to change for us in the future with where we are in the world. So we're still trying to work out time schedules and things to get back on a more normal sort of schedule. But thanks for bearing with us. Cheers, everyone. Ciao for now.
Bye.
Bye.